God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way, though the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Be still and know that I am God. Those are God's words to us, that we would be still and know that God is with us. Good morning. Welcome to Bethany. Have some announcements this morning, and it starts with something that I think we're probably all relieved and happy about and that's Monday. This coming Monday, May 18, is the final day of the state stay-at-home order. And so while there's still going to be probably a slow process of coming back together, it does begin that sense of a renewed sense of, okay, the load is lightening a little bit. We're feeling a little bit more freedom, which we should be feeling anyway. But I just want to say too that a leadership committee here at Bethany is going to meet on Monday at 7 o'clock just to begin to discuss some kind of a pathway forward. What is it going to look like for us to begin to come back together? Because that's ultimately what we really desire, isn't it? I mean, we can find on the internet multitudes of services, can't we? I mean, thousands. We could probably watch 100 a day of sermons and this kind of thing. But what we really desire is to come back, is to be together with each other, so that, as Hebrews 10 says, so that we can be an encouragement to each other and build each other up, especially during a time like this. So that's one announcement. A couple other ones have to do with technology, and one of them is over the last couple months we've been working on putting an app together, and that app is still in process. It is available for us to download on the App Store, on Google Play, so you can do that. And really the main goal with that app is to help us stay connected. And so we're in the future going to be rolling out more of a notification kind of a system where we can really be in touch with each other. We can get notified for volunteer kinds of things that we're signed up for. And so be anticipating that. But in the meantime, you can download our Bethany app from the App Store and Google Play. Also, Instagram. We are now on Instagram, and we've certainly been on Facebook for a while, and of course this is posted on Facebook. But what I've come to discover is that there's an entire demographic here at the church and in our society that don't use Facebook, and that demographic is young people, essentially probably 20 years old and younger. Very few of them use Facebook. They're on Instagram, on Snapchat, and so it seemed to make sense that we would also start an Instagram account to basically include the whole church and not just those who are on Facebook. And so if you have an Instagram account, it's Bethany Church Clare City, and so download the Instagram app. And one more technology note. As I just mentioned, of course, we do use Facebook quite a bit. And what I would do and what I have done is just to go into the settings. Just be aware that there is a settings section in your Facebook account that you can tweak your privacy settings. And so I would do that. Go in there, see what your settings are for your privacy, and try to keep your account as private as possible, so people can't Facebook bomb you, post things on your Facebook page. You wake up in the morning, whoa, what's on my Facebook page? You don't really want that to happen unless you're family reunion, things like that. So just a note to go into your Facebook account and keep those settings in the high privacy range. One other announcement, I want to turn it over to Todd in his office. He has got an update for us on the youth front. So, Todd, take it away.
Hi, everyone. It's been a while since I've been in front, quote unquote, up in front of church, and just thought I'd give an update on some of the things that are happening with the youth program during the stay-at-home order. So both youth groups have been doing a lot of things on Zoom meetings, which is, if you're not familiar with that, it's video chatting online where we can all see each other and talk to each other. And things along those natures. It's been going pretty well so far. I think the kids are all pretty sick of Zoom meetings, just with school and this and that and all the other things that we've been going down. Just want to give one big update for the entire congregation. The kids all know this already, and I'm sure the parents do as well. But Rocky 2020 was postponed. And I'm looking at the letter here in my office. Rocky 2021 will happen, and it will be for, the way they're talking right now, the current sophomores and the current juniors, being that the current seniors have already been to a Rocky Mountain High, and the current freshmen will have an opportunity later on. Those dates will be July 31st through August 4th of 2021. So if you want to postmark those things on your calendar, we'll go through that entire registration process again. And as information comes to me, I will get it out to you as the youth group kids. Outside of that, we're hoping to get some things back to normal. Vacation Bible School will be postponed a little bit, hopefully later on into the summer, and that it isn't canceled completely. Our summer opportunities, we're still working through that as a staff and seeing where the government and the governor goes with groups. Outside of that, I will try to always keep our youth pages updated to the most current information that I have. So please make sure that you are checking those things out as well. So I know it's not the news that our senior high wanted to hear, or many of you wanted to hear, but that's the way it is for now. So with that, God bless, and I'm hoping that everybody is home and safe and well. Take care.
Thank you, Todd. I think I noticed something. Maybe you caught it too. It looked to me like Todd had a Corona cut. We may want to get to the bottom of that. Maybe you need to get a hold of Todd and ask him where he got his Corona. It looks pretty good. I think it looks good. So good job, Todd, getting that Corona cut. This morning, for a time of reflection and a message, I want to think about contrasts in life. Now, if we think about our lives, there's no doubt that we can track in our lives that roller coaster effect, that those high points in our lives, and also those low points in our lives. And I don't know about you, many of you have gone to Rocky Mountain High, but that's a mountaintop. Typically we come back from Rocky Mountain High and it's like, that was amazing. We want to carry those mountaintop experiences, but the reality is that life also has low points. And so what life really is it's a continuum of contrasts. It's a journey of highs and lows. And I was reminded of that a couple weeks ago, and there were a couple days there where we had a sequence of 2 or 3 amazing days. And I mean, it's been 6 months, waiting 6 months through the season of winter and cold and snow and being in the house. And we're just anticipating heat and warm sunshine, being able to be outside in short sleeves and then go for walks. And a couple weeks ago, there was a series of about 2 or 3 days, and I was kind of basking in that a little bit. I'm like, this is what we've been waiting for. And I remember I was closing the garage door, coming in the house, and it was dark, it was night, and all of a sudden I noticed above me, and I noticed popping in through the top of the door were mosquitoes. Mosquitoes, the dreaded mosquitoes. I was like, what? No. And it was at that moment that I was reminded of the reality that life is a continuum of contrasts. I mean, the sun, the warmth, yes, it's finally here, the mountaintop. But then, the mosquitoes. Don't like the mosquitoes. And so right in that moment, there was this acknowledgement that, man, this is life. This is just the reality of life. It's a continuum, sometimes a collision at the same time. There's a really good thing happening, and at the same time, there's a low that's happening. And I've actually experienced that in my life this past year. Today is my birthday, and typically you don't announce your birthday, but I'm announcing it this morning because this past year, more than any other year of my life, has been a year of contrasts. There's been a roller coaster continuum, but there's also been a collision of contrasts where there's been, at the same time, I'm sensing this a really great moment of my life. I'm also experiencing a frustration and a low point in my life. And one of them relates to my health. We went to Oregon in late June of this past year, and that was a high point. I had never been to Oregon, and it was fantastic. It was incredibly beautiful, and man, it was just drinking that in. It was awesome. It was a high. But at that very same time, there was something going on in my body, in my hands, and in my feet. This pain in the knuckles and the joints and the ligaments. I'm like, what is going on? So I'm walking on the beach on the top of the roller coaster, while at the same time, man, something is wrong with me. Something is going on. So there's this low point happening, and that was a collision for me in this past year of contrasts, of good and of not good. And so for me, this past year has frankly been the worst year of my life for health. Diagnosed with some disease, probably a first, second cousin to arthritis, that has, a super long name. And so now I'm dealing with some of that aching and trying to figure out how to bring some relief from that. And so that's one example of how this past year for me has been a contrast. One other realm where there's been a distinct contrast for me in my life this past year has been in the realm of family. We have had a phenomenal year as a family. One of the best years that one could have. We adopted our foster child, this precious little boy, Toby. No doubt a mountaintop, especially after going through 3 years of up and down. Man, are we gonna keep this child? Are we gonna be able to adopt him? Or, now we're going back to court for this and that. And so that in and of itself was a roller coaster. But finally, coming back from Oregon, we're back in the courtroom. But this past July, as we've of course told our story, wow, that was a high point. That was amazing. That journey ended in a glorious event, and just to supplement that, we maintain a really good relationship with the biological mother. We've met with her, and so that's a good thing as well. Well, parallel to that, and not long after that, there began to be another contrast. Family flourishing, adoption. Well, when that summer was going on last last year, our last remaining pet, our precious cat, Alvin, died. And that was kind of a last remnant from Iowa, moving up here. And so we were, for the first time in 17 years, pet-free. And to be honest, it was a relief to me. I like animals, but my boundary for my personal life is I don't care for them in the house. And we had between 1 and 15 animals at one point when we were in Iowa. And so I was very, very much ready for a break, a pet break, a break from animals and all that responsibility. But my dear wife loves pets, and she loves them in the house. And so while we were going through this process of no longer having a pet, Stephanie is actively desiring and pursuing the opposite of what I was pursuing and desiring. And that was a respite, a break from animal intrusion in our house. And, well, for the next 2 or 3 months after our precious cat, Alvin, passed away, Stephanie was busy clamoring to get another animal to join us in our home. And that was marriage conflict. And I know that there are many of you out there, many who have that same conflict. And it's not fun, is it? Especially after welcoming legally a precious child into our home, all of a sudden we're going back and forth trying to figure out this problem, this issue and disagreement. And so, wow, right away, boom, top of the mountain to, stuck in this valley of frustration and conflict. It's life, isn't it? It's life. Life is a continuum of contrast, of conflict, and sometimes those things are going on at the same time. So this past year, in my personal life, my health, in my family, there was that high and that low, and right here at Bethany, we had a high. And that high point for me, and I think for many of us here at Bethany, was in August when we met together and created a vision team. And we invited someone to come in and help lead us through a process to help us assess our fervence, our vision. You look at scripture and we read, this is what God calls the church to be. And there's really nothing better for a church then to go through a process to see if we are doing that. I mean, are we actually walking in the Jesus way? Are we actually making disciples? Are we actually loving others as we love ourselves? That's something that every church should be doing on a regular basis, is introspecting and analyze, are we doing that? And that's what we did that weekend. And it was an awesome weekend. And we left that weekend with 2 teams. One team to do the work of some relationship restructuring, like the volunteer system of the church, to be more effective and purposeful in our whole volunteer system of the church. And the other team was more on the strategizing of visual stuff, like how as Bethany are we welcoming people visually? I mean, certainly as people, relationship-wise, that's the number one way to be inviting and welcoming, is to be conveying kindness and welcome and invitation. But there's also a visible dimension to that too, a building dimension, so that when people walk in these doors, they feel welcomed just by the environment. And so that was the second team, is their task was to try to enhance the visible dimensions of the church, to make this building more welcoming to those who are seeking, to those that we invite to this place. And during this season, there's actually been, I guess we could call it Project Isolation. There's been some work happening here. And that team has been making some modifications here in this building to make it more welcoming. And I'm actually standing in that area right now. When you walk in the church, I'm looking out the window right now. And when you walk in the church, when we start to trickle back in a little bit, you're going to see that, there's been some changes here. And there have been a couple people that have come in and the words that have come out of their mouth were inviting. This is inviting. And so that stay-at-home order, it's over on Monday. So maybe in the next week, 2 weeks, 3, as time goes on here, there's going to be some people coming in and looking at, okay, Project Isolate, this was good. And it was nice too, because Minnesota Classis has been giving every church in the Classis $10,000 to use toward a project. And so that was kind of a no-brainer. We're working on Project Isolation to make Bethany visually more welcoming and inviting. And so, vision. Last summer, high point. Well, what was the low point that happened right after that? Obviously, don't have to go into more detail on that, global pandemic. And so you go from this rush of excitement to, man, we're rallying around the vision, to boom, gone. All that wind in our sail kind of deflates. And so life, that's what life is filled with, isn't it? It's filled with contrasts, with highs and with lows. And in Scripture, and particularly in 2 Samuel, there is a person named David. And we've been reflecting on Psalms last Sunday, Psalm 46. And one thing that we see in David's life is the very same thing. Highs and lows. And in 2 Samuel chapter 6, we see actually a collision of contrast. At the very same time that David is on a high, he's also on a low. David is bringing the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem, and he renamed Jerusalem the City of David. This is my city, and he is on a high. The Ark of the Covenant is this symbol for Israel of God's very presence. In that covenant, that pure gold box, are incredible reminders of God's provision in the jar of manna, in God's presence in the Ten Commandments, in his promises to be with his people, in their religious system, their sacrificial system, that the Levites, Aaron's staff, his budding staff, these symbols of Israel and of God's presence, power, provision are all in there. And God actually met up with Israel above the Ark of the Covenant. And so the Ark was a very important object in the life of Israel. And wherever that Ark went, there was blessing and good things happening. And David wanted that to be right next to him, right in the midst of the people. And so that's what's happening here in 2 Samuel chapter 6. I'm going to read some verses here. And it says this: So David went down and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom to the city of David with rejoicing. When those who were carrying the ark of the Lord had taken 6 steps, David sacrificed a bull and a fatted calf and an extravagant offering to God of thanksgiving. And then it says, David, wearing a linen ephod, a priestly garment, danced before the Lord with all his might, while he and the entire house of Israel brought up the ark of the Lord with the shouts and the sound of trumpets. As the ark of the Lord was entering the city of David, Michal, David's wife and daughter of Saul, the previous king who David was taking place, Michal, daughter of Saul, watched from a window, and when she saw King David, her husband, leaping and dancing before the Lord, she despised him with all of her heart. When David returned home to bless his household, Michal, David's wife, daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, "Oh, how the king of Israel has distinguished himself today, disrobing in the sight of the slave girls of his servants as any vulgar fellow would." David said to Michal, "It was before the Lord who chose me rather than your father or anyone from his house when he appointed me ruler over the house of the Lord. I will celebrate before the Lord. I will become even more undignified than this, and I will be humiliated in my own eyes, but by these slave girls you spoke of, I will be held in honor." And Michal, David's wife, daughter of Saul, had no children to the day of her death. There's a contrast there, isn't there? Right in the family, in the household of David, David is praising the Lord with all of his might, while at the very same time, his wife is looking at him in absolute disgust. "You wretched beast." Have you ever experienced that kind of a collision of contrasts in your life, where you're at the high point of your life, while at the very same time, right within your own household, you are experiencing absolute terror? David, in the middle of a collision of contrasts, this is what life is filled with, isn't it? What's interesting is that in David's life, and what I want us to take from this is something that we see in David's life and we discover in the Psalms, is that, you know what? David is maximally petitioning God in the valley. We see that over and over, don't we? Psalm 51 is this, he's on his knees in complete confession and petition during those trials. During the highs, David is maximally praising. I don't know about you, but when things are going good, I don't really know if I can say that I am maximally praising God. I mean, God knows this about us, that when things are going good, we kind of float through, and maybe we're super happy. But do we acknowledge with all of our might our gratitude to God in the good things that we experience in life? On the Oregon coast, an amazing experience to just stand there, to be still, and as Psalm 46 says, and know that I am God. Just to bask in the beauty of those moments and those days, to take those times when things are good, and drench them in gratitude to God like David did with all of his might. I think that's a takeaway for me, and maybe that's a takeaway for you. We read the Psalm, Psalm 139. The whole psalm is, Lord, you are good, you love me. Your steadfast love surrounds me. David isn't simply grateful for some amazing thing that happened. He's simply praising God for who God is. God is love. And God has created the beauty that surrounds us. David praised God with all of his might. He saturated all of those good moments in his life, acknowledging God. Now, we have no trouble saturating our sad moments, do we? Saturating our sad moments with petitions to God in those trials. Lord, help me, heal me, do this, do that during this really bad time. But do we with equal fervency? Do we with equal fervency saturate our good moments and the good things of life with gratitude and worship and praise to God? I think that's the challenge for me. And I think that's the challenge for us. When we go through a time like we're going through now, a low point, aren't we made more aware of how much we appreciate the good times? I think we are. A disruption like this has a way of shining a light on how good it is to experience good things. And so I'm going to be challenged by that. And I want to be more intentional about saturating the good moments of my life with worship and praise to God. I know a man who's done this. His name is Ravi Zacharias. Ravi Zacharias has experienced a lot of really, really great, epic events in his life. But right now, Ravi Zacharias, a speaker, a Christian thinker, philosopher who speaks all over the world right now, he's going through an incredibly low point. Actually, he's on his deathbed. And I will no doubt shed tears when Ravi Zacharias dies, because he's actually been a major influence in my life in terms of my growth as a Christian. And Ravi Zacharias has written several books, but one of the books that he's written is called Recapture the Wonder. Recapture the wonder. Right in that title is that challenge to saturate the moments where we experience God's goodness, to saturate those moments in an outpouring of praise and worship, and not to forget that. God, what did he tell his people? When you're experiencing my good blessings, don't forget me. Don't just wear a smile, be happy, put a candle on your cake and blow it out and yay. Acknowledge me. Worship and praise me. And I see that in Ravi's life. In that book, in that invitation to recapture this childlike wonder of who God is, his steadfast love, his glorious creation, and all of the spiritual blessings that we have in Christ, to recapture that. But also, at this moment, is the acknowledgement that right now Ravi is on his deathbed. And he has an autobiography out called Going from East to West, Walking from East to West. And in that autobiography, I think either bio or autobiography, he mentions Psalm 4. And when he was younger, his dad sang a song that was based on Psalm 4. And he writes about that in his autobiography, how much that spoke to him and the words. And ultimately, there was a sense in those words, in the psalmist's words, of peace. That in everything, God is there bringing peace. And ultimately, we are safe in the presence and in the arms of God's love. And there's both joy in the midst of that, and also God's there when we are experiencing our lows. And so it was kind of cool because I actually wrote a song as well based on Psalm 4. And I want to leave us with that song here, just to reflect on the words of Psalm 4 and have that acknowledgement that in our lows, yes, we experience God's peace, God's presence, but also in the highs, when we see God's face shining and blessing us. In those moments as well, we are saturating our lives with praise to Him. And so let's reflect on Psalm 4.
Answer me
God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way, and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though the waters roar and foam, and the mountains quake with their surging. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Be still and know that I am God. May we take time to be still and know that the Lord is God and with us, both in the trials and in the joys. May we excel in both. Go in peace.